I have tried to record this video on 3 separate occasions. This is the 3rd attempt. Let's see how it goes. Hey sunflowers and squares, welcome back to BPD Squared, where we tackle mental illness from a black girl's perspective. My name is Brenda, and today we're going to talk about dissociation. So as I mentioned earlier, I have been working on this video for the past couple weeks, I guess. Not in succession, but I recorded a video, thought it was good, started working on it. I didn't like it, and I did it again yesterday, and I discovered some very interesting things about myself. So the original video was meant to be educational, where I would talk about the different forms of dissociation, give you definitions based on a specific website that I have, that I got my information from, as well as try to give you guys examples of what it may look like, or just basically I was giving examples from my own personal experience. And like I said, the way the video was going, I just wasn't really feeling it. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel authentic. It didn't feel like I was actually giving a personal perspective. I felt like I was trying too hard to be informative and giving more than what I initially anticipated to do. So like I said, I took the chance yesterday to re-record the video and try to come at it from a different perspective and actually just talk to you guys about what I was actually experiencing with dissociation itself, instead of trying to be so technical. So I'm going to try to start this video off the same way I started the video off from yesterday, and try to explain what's been going on without dissociating. Hopefully. It was really strong yesterday, but that I will cover a little bit later on. But basically, I wanted to share that the dissociation has been very strong. If you follow me on Instagram, I know that I've been posting a lot of things that have been hinting towards these issues that I've been having, and kind of just feeling really lost, because it's really been a struggle lately, and I'm finally ready to open up to you guys and let you know what it is I'm actually experiencing. Like, I don't want to hide anymore. I don't want to shortchange myself, let alone those in my community, those who I've learned to, build these relationships with. We're supposed to be, helping each other. And if I can't come to you guys and let you know the things that I've been experiencing, how would you feel comfortable coming to me? So it's a give and take, and I wanted to make sure that I was vulnerable enough to give you guys my biggest struggles, so that you know that you have a right to feel the way you feel, to say what you need to say, and to process it the way you are comfortable processing it. So here goes. For those of you who aren't familiar already, BPDsquared is based on my 2 diagnoses that I got last year in February. So February 2019, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, type 1, I believe, as well as borderline personality disorder. Both of those disorders, I was diagnosed with them at the same time while I was in hospital care. I believe I covered this story. I'll have to re-watch one of my videos to see if I did cover the full backstory, but if I didn't, I have no problem making a video, and so that way you guys can know the process I went through to get diagnosed. But anyway, so upon getting the diagnosis, I remember mentioning beforehand, that it was difficult to sleep at night because there were so many voices in my head. I was feeling like, there was just so much screaming in my head. Nothing was distinctive, nothing made sense. It was just a bunch of screaming. And I also kept seeing this entity that I refer to as the Shadow Man. I have a post about the Shadow Man on my blog. I do not want to go into detail about Shadow Man because I'm afraid that I will dissociate again. So if you want to know more about that, you can definitely go to my blog and read about it. I'll leave a link down below. But yeah, so I was hearing these voices and seeing this specific entity. I was afraid to go to sleep at night. All this stuff was going on, and I really just felt like I was losing my ish. So, like I said, I went to the psychiatrist, I got hospitalized, I got my diagnosis, and I thought for a while that that was it. But stuff started happening again. I don't remember specifically what, but I just knew that things were starting to get bad again, and stuff was starting to get pressured. So, and like my stress was building back up again. So the voices never stopped. Let's just put that out there. Even though I was in the hospital and I've been diagnosed and I've been on medication and, doing the mindfulness things and all this other stuff that I was supposed to be doing to keep myself together, I was still hearing voices. I was still hearing stuff going on. And I thought for a while that that was just a part of it, and I just kind of accepted it. And I thought it was, a result of, I'm just overly stressed. I need to get more sleep. I forgot to take my meds, so I need to make sure I take my medicine tomorrow so that I don't go through this. I thought that's what it was. But even with diligence on doing that, I was still having these thoughts and these feelings. So I knew that it had to be something more. But again, I didn't want to pressure myself to think about that, so I kind of put it on the back burner. And then certain events happened following that feeling, going into the holidays. Holidays are kind of hard for me, as I'm sure it is for most of us who have mental health issues. But going into the holidays, I got this phone call that I feel was the catalyst that kind of threw everything for a loop. So that phone call caused me to kind of start going downhill in a way, because that was, I guess, the last straw that broke the camel's back, so to say, because everything from that point I feel was kind of hanging on a thread, and that was the last thing that was needed to actually break me, or break me in the sense of that was, I just was at that point where I knew it was just bad, and it was going to be very hard to recover. And so the voices were getting worse and worse, and it became to a point where I started dreaming more vividly, and I started to see places and people and worlds that I have never been to. Started seeing things that I don't even remember seeing in like maybe television or film or anything like that. And I was trying to put some kind of correlation to it. Like I was trying to figure out, how am I seeing all these things? And I started trying to connect them to the people in my life. And I was like, well, maybe this person, this is who I'm seeing. Maybe this is who this person represents. Maybe this person that I saw represents my husband. Maybe this person that I saw represents a person that I've become close to recently. I don't know. So that was just my way of trying to, trying to make sense of it in my own head, I guess. And so so yeah, moving forward, I started noticing my dissociation getting a little bit stronger, in where I would just kind of black out, feel really hazy, to the point where my husband started to notice it a lot. And I started to dissociate to the point where I didn't feel like myself. I felt like a child. I feel like a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old girl, especially when I'm around him. And I think it's mainly because I've come to, respect him as that person that I can trust, and he takes care of me, and he makes sure that I'm covered and I don't have to worry about nothing. And I don't want to say this about my husband because I don't think of him that way, but it's kind of like just not a father figure, but a protector, basically. So I've started to, I guess my brain has started to come to accept him as that. And so my brain kind of regresses. Now, I don't know if it's age sliding or if this is a completely separate person that I've become, but we both are aware that I become a child. And as you guys have probably seen in a previous video, sorry, I'm trying to make sure I don't look I'm trying to make sure I don't look too wild and wacky. I just washed my hair this morning. But anyway, so wait, what was I saying? What was the point? I hate when this happens. Basically, so I started to see these little girls more and more. And I started to get these sensations more and more. And things got worse. If you see, that's what I was about to say. If you've seen my videos previously, then you know that there was a time where I had gotten fired. And after that was another thing that just kind of piled on top of my feelings of just hopelessness in a way. And so, yeah, I'm starting to dissociate. But anyway, who was I? So like I mentioned earlier, I'm really fighting dissociation right now. So forgive me if I get a little hazy and off topic, but back to the point. So, if you watch my previous videos, then you know that I had gotten fired last month, and that really took a toll on me mentally because, here I am thinking that I was having a pretty good understanding of what was going on and that I had this connection with people and that things were making sense, I guess, for all parties involved. And that just wasn't the case. And so that really, really put me in a very dark place, mainly because of just the fact I was hurting. I was hurting a lot. I felt betrayed. I felt angry. And I just felt like any and everything that could possibly have been done to sabotage me was done. And so it really just took a toll on me, to be honest. It was so overwhelming, and it's still something that I struggle with, but it's getting a little bit easier to deal with. But for a good while, I was infuriated. I was so angry. And I'm a person that expresses anger quietly. It's a reason why I mentioned in a previous video, I feel like I have quiet BPD because the rage that they normally say is associated with BPD, it doesn't really come out like that. And I will fuss about stuff, but it normally comes after the fact and after a processing period. But I am not one that can easily just go off at that moment. Like, I feel it, and my brain is kind of like, you know what, it's okay. I'll get over it. It'll be fine. And then later on, as evidence becomes more and more present, that's when the anger will build up. But I also just don't allow myself to really just explode like that. So, and I don't know if that's something I learned as a kid or whatever the case may be, but I've always kind of just, kept it to myself. And I noticed that the more I quieted myself on my anger and how frustrated I was, I started to have more and more dreams again. And these dreams, like my feelings were starting to manifest into dreams. And again, I have to watch my videos. I don't remember anything. So if I've mentioned this before in a video, I don't think I mentioned it in a video, but I definitely have a blog post about it. But I had this one specific dream about this little girl. And I've come to learn that her name is Anne. Anne is 8 years old and is Asian, and she is angry, just an angry child. And I think she is the manifestation of that anger that I was never allowed to release. And so I had this dream about her yelling at this guy, fussing, complaining, saying how she was gonna, well, trigger warning, say how she was gonna kill somebody. I don't know who she was gonna try to kill, but she was just angry, like so angry. And these were feelings that I had internally. And these are things that I've said in a way that caused me to go into dissociation. And then I started having these dreams. So I'm like, wow, this is really affecting me. And I noticed this was going on a lot. And then I started to, again, still regress into those little girls. And more things just started becoming more apparent to me. And so I started to kind of research my diagnosis again and try to figure out, is this something that people with BPD actually deal with? Like, I know we dissociate, but do we like actually hear voices? Do we see people? When I was first discovering my diagnosis, I came across a channel, Dissociative. You should be familiar with her. If you're not familiar with her, you definitely need to go look at Nin's channel. And Nin is the host of the Dissociative System. Nin has been diagnosed with PTSD as well as Dissociative Identity Disorder. Her channel is dedicated to describing not only what the diagnosis is, but her personal experience with the diagnosis, as well as you get to see her alters, and they present themselves and introduce themselves, and you get to see basically what her life is like when it comes to dealing with multiple people in your head. And so I will leave a link to her channel down below, of course, but I bring that up because when I was first learning how to, learning about BPD and researching my diagnoses, whatever the plural is, I like I said, came across her channel. And at the time, I was like, I mean, this is cool information. And yeah, I want to be more educated on it because it is a part of mental health in general. And I want to be more educated on mental health. But I was like, I don't have D.I.D. So I don't really want to get too far into it because I know myself, and I do kind of get obsessive about things, especially if I need answers. I will kind of delve myself into things because I want to get that answer. So I'm trying to hone myself on it because I do realize that about myself. But anyway, moving back to the point. So when I first watched her videos, I was like, this couldn't possibly be something I'm dealing with. So I'm just watching it because it's interesting, but it's not something I relate to. And again, like I said, all this stuff started happening. I started hearing things, seeing things, feeling things, becoming things. And so I just recently returned from a cruise with my best friend, and you guys will get to see that footage, so be sure to stay tuned for that. But even while I was on this trip, I was like, dealing with these feelings and these switches and these feelings of suicide and depression. And even though I had a great, amazing time, I still struggled with who I was, what I was dealing with, and if I still wanted to be alive when I got home. So So now I'm gonna try to wrap this up basically, because I can go on about this forever, and I don't want to have everybody sitting here waiting for me to get to the point. The point is, I've been hearing voices for a while. The point is, I've been seeing people in my head. I've been hearing people in my head. I've I knew about the first one since I was about 4 or 5 years old, and her name is Bianca. And Bianca, I thought, was just my imaginary friend. But Bianca has shown up throughout my life multiple times. I first saw her, like I said, when I was a kid. Bianca, I call her Bianca Blue now because she's blue. Her skin is blue. Her face is kind of alien hybrid like. She looks kind of like a fairy. She had wings when I was younger. She had like this kind of lavender kind of skin with pink hair, but not more like a platinum pink hair. As I got older, her skin became darker blue and her hair it's more towards a red color. Now that I'm 31, as I see her, she has dark blue skin and very red hair. If you wanted to compare her to something, compare her to Mystique. That's who she looks like in my head. But her face is that of a Tim Burton character. She looks like Sally Doll, but her eyes are much bigger, and she has this grin that kind of looks like a Cheshire Cat grin. And she doesn't say much. She doesn't do anything. She doesn't really move or anything like that. She just shows up. Like when I was younger, the way she would present herself was she would sit with me and listen. She never really said much of anything. I don't remember her ever speaking. But I do remember her just kind of sitting with me and listening to me and watching me play as a kid. I remember that much. Like, I distinctly remember her sitting on my bed while I was playing. And when I was a teenager, I saw her again, especially around the time when I was really confused about my identity, my sexuality, and all of those things like that. She showed up, and she had this more punkish appearance to her. I think that's still my favorite adaptation of her. But that's one way she presented herself. And then another way, like I said, now it's just she looks like a mix between Sally and Emily. So Sally from The Nightmare Before Christmas and Emily from The Corpse Bride. She looks like a mix between them two because her body is very thin and frail. She's very dark blue, and her face is just very, very expressive. Like, her eyes are like super big and her smile is like this wide. So, but again, she doesn't do anything. She just stands there and looks at me. And it was one day I think I woke up in the middle of the night and I was getting ready to, I think I accidentally went to sleep and didn't take my medication. And I had those dreams again. And they were so vivid that I woke up. I think that was the night I dreamed about Anne. When I woke up, everything didn't look right. Nothing looked like my house, basically. Everything looked like it was just on an angle, like it was askew. So I was very disoriented. I couldn't focus. I was walking I was just wobbling and it was all over the place. So I went to the bathroom to take my medication. I looked in the mirror. It was not me. I saw Bianca's face. My most recent discovery is hearing a distinct voice. I remember speaking to a former good friend of mine. I was speaking to a good friend, and I was letting her know about the fact that I was hearing these voices and what it was like and what I felt it was like. And I remember just getting overwhelmed with everything, and I was, as you see, I'm kind of rocking back and forth right now because I'm dissociating a bit, but I was really fighting. So I remember telling her, okay, I'm going to lay down for a while, and I'm going to relax, and I'm going to just, try to rest my mind because I was really, really going through it. And in that time frame, all these faces. Now I did take a nap. I was asleep. So all these faces just started whoosh, going by my face, going across my mind basically. And I remember just hearing a distinct name and a distinct voice, and it just said James. It was interesting because it was the first time that my mind was quiet enough to actually hear something come through clearly. Because like I mentioned before, it was nothing but screaming, and it just seemed like everything was distorted and just loud, and there was no continuity. It began, between anything. It was just loud and disorienting. And yet that day, I just really, I don't know what it was, but I think I just kind of sat myself down and was like, try to focus on one. Try to focus, I guess that's what happened. I don't really know for sure, but I do just know that I was like, I can hear him. I hear him, and his name is James. I've heard other voices and seen other faces. Like I think last night I met a new one named Baez. Baez is a big guy. Samoan. But anyway, I'm mentioning this to you guys because like I said, I don't want to hide my struggle any longer. I've been very vague and been very cryptic. And not only is it unfair to you guys to, for me to try to say, oh, this is how I'm struggling with mental health, but not actually telling you what I'm struggling with. Not only is that unfair to you guys, but it's unfair to me. It's unfair to myself, and it's unfair to whatever's I'm experiencing inside my own head. Now, like I said before, I watched Dissociative's videos. I watched Team Pinata's videos. I've watched a few other videos. I look at different psychiatrists like Tracy Marks, Dr. Romani, other videos, Katie Morgan. I watch these videos because I'm like looking for research, looking for answers. I've been on Very Well Mind, which I definitely say you guys should check out. It's a very good website. Been on these different websites, looked up all these different videos, trying to get these different explanations. And I tried to find any way I could to correlate BPD with these symptoms and experiences. The only thing they say is that with BPD, you can feel disoriented. You can feel like you're not where you are supposed to be. You can feel like you are on the outside looking in. You can feel separate from yourself. But the difference between BPD and D.I.D. is that with BPD's dissociation, you still are yourself, I guess is the best way to say it. You still have a sense of you. So even with BPD, you do have identity confusion, you have identity alteration. So you may go through times where you want to change who you are and change your name and change your appearance, change your views, change a lot of things about yourself. But the difference is that you're actively choosing to change things about you because so let me put it like this. You're actively choosing to change things about you. So as Brenda, if I chose today, I don't want to be Brenda, I want to be Tristan. And as Tristan, I'm going to start dressing as a punk and a goth, and I'm going to start listening to nothing but alternative emo music and wear black eyeliner all the time. That's still a conscious decision. Even though I've changed my name, changed my appearance and my, overall outlook, it's still related to who Brenda is, if that makes sense. But these entities and personas are not a choice that I made. These voices and these faces are not choices that I made. I hear children, I hear a woman some woman in my head has a motherly voice. Whenever my littles come out and they act, and I'm acting like a little, or I'm age sliding, I don't really know for sure, but I know when I become in that childlike state, the mother figure in my head comes out and says, okay, we have to make these decisions now, and you have to come back in for a bit. There's also, like I said, James is in my head, and James, I feel, is my protector. James helps me kind of get myself organized. And in my head, he's a tall, thin, dark-skinned guy, with kind of a British accent, I guess. I'm not gonna imitate it. I'm not gonna mimic it because I'm terrible at it. But in my head, it's perfect, So it's a little stressing. I'm not gonna lie. It's a little stressing to explain it. But like I said, I want to share this with you guys because the last thing I want is to be experiencing something that I could have shared with someone, and I could have been working with someone to kind of get an idea or a handle on what I'm dealing with, And it also would help to know if anybody out there with BPD, anybody out there at all, regardless of what you deal with, honestly, if you've had any kind of experience like this where you are dealing with voices in your head and you're dealing with separate identities and separate personas, please let me know in the comments down below. Reach out any way you can. Like I said, you can hit me up down below in the comments, or you can always reach me on Instagram. I'm always on Instagram. That's going to be your best bet in how to reach me. But yeah, I really want to work towards a better understanding of what's going on in my head, because I'm tired of denying it. I'm tired of denying my truth. And my truth is, I hear voices in my head. My truth is, I cannot always control what I see and who I become. My truth is that I could possibly have alters. My truth is that I possibly have a trauma that I don't realize is there. Or I have a trauma that I know is there, but my alters have come to be those protectors. Maybe that's why Bianca was created as a child. Maybe she was my way of accepting what I was going through at the time. Now, I don't, like I said, I was about 4 or 5 years old. I don't know what I was going through, but she's always been there. She has always been there. And I know that there are certain criteria that you have to meet to be diagnosed with D.I.D. as well. And again, I'm not here to self-diagnose. I'm definitely not here to self-diagnose. That's the last thing I'm going to do to myself. But I do admit the fact that these are things that I've experienced, and these are things that I go through. So with that being said, I think I've said enough, and I don't want to, like I said, run on too long. But I did record a video yesterday, so I will have that video up as well very soon. I was gonna put it in this video, but I feel like I should make that separate. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and upload this one, and then following this video there will be also kind of a video that shows what I experienced yesterday when I dissociated and became someone else. And I think, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I think James and Baez came out. I'm not sure, but we will find out together. So again, I'm not sure if this was helpful for anyone, but it did help me to be able to finally just talk and express this out to you guys. I hope that in me expressing, well, this is how it could help. I hope that in me expressing my struggles and the things that I've dealt with, it helps others understand that, you don't have to deny what you're feeling just because it doesn't match up with the diagnosis that you've received. I mean, hell, before I was diagnosed with bipolar and borderline, I was still feeling things, you know? So I knew something in my head wasn't right before I got diagnosed the last time. So who's to say that there may not be something else there? There's nothing wrong with letting yourself know that you got something going on. If you don't feel right, there's nothing wrong with admitting that to yourself. If you know something is off, address it. Don't ignore it. Don't do like I did and ignore it and put it off to the side, because it eventually it can become worse. And the last thing you want to do is deny yourself that chance to become healthier and to recover in a better, faster, and healthier way. There is a video. There's one last thing I do want to mention, by the way. Like I said, I came back from the cruise Monday. And on Monday, it was like early in the morning, came home, sat on the couch, was eating some food, watching YouTube videos. And it was so interesting because, like I said, I had started watching Dissociative again because I was feeling all that stuff. So I was like, well, maybe I should watch. And someone just told me, watch her videos and see if there's anything that correlates to what you've been feeling. But when I came back from that cruise, when I opened my YouTube, y'all, one of the videos that popped up, the first video was her video, and it said how to tell if you're faking or something like that. Basically, it was on the lines of how to tell if you were faking. And I was like, this could not have lined up better. And I'm a person that believes that the universe communicates with you if you are willing to listen. What you put out is what you give back. And so I felt that I was searching so hard for these answers, but yet Nin put out this video that could not have come at a better time, honestly. So I watched that video and I never felt better. I will put a link to that video specifically down below, because it really helped me. And it doesn't matter if you have D.I.D. or not. It doesn't matter what your diagnosis is. It doesn't even matter if you have a diagnosis. If you are struggling with anything, you are allowed to feel how you feel, period. And I definitely suggest to take a look at that video specifically. I have never felt more calm and more heard in my life. And I've never spoken to this woman before a day in my life. I've never actually actively had a conversation with her or anything like that. But it just felt like I made this video for you, you know? So, again, I hope that I'm doing the same thing and making this video to let others know that you are not invalid in your feelings. You may not understand them, and you may not be able to explain them to most people, and that's okay. It's okay to be confused. It's okay to not understand your own mind. It's perfectly okay, because that's my life right now. That was my life when I got diagnosed, and that's my life right now. Both my husband and I have been like fighting almost every night, trying to figure out what's going on in my head. And we're gonna figure this out, guys, and you're gonna be here for this journey. And all right, like I said, that's enough talking. So again, I will leave links below to the different blog posts that I mentioned that talk about specific triggering instances. I will leave a link to Dissociative's video, and I hope that from there you watch more of her videos so you can learn more about D.I.D. I will leave a link also to a video that she did with Team Pinata, where they talk about borderline personality disorder as well as having D.I.D. Nan, who is the host of Team Pinata, has borderline personality as well as D.I.D. So I think that might be a good video too. I don't know. It's just going to be a bunch of links down below. So if y'all want to check it out, check it out. But regardless, you already know to stay square and that I love you so, so much. And follow me on Instagram.